think there's no denying that BattleBit's momentum from a player count perspective has been slowed down as of late, but that's not stopping the developers from making some incredibly important updates to the game, paving way for content releases in the near future, no doubt. And I've got to say, folks, you might want to stick around for this one. G'day there once again, viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and we have yet another pretty solid BattleBit update to go over. Alright, so there is a lot to cover in this one, folks. As we said, the developers are putting some serious overtime right now into focusing on balance and quality of life for the game before they start putting some attention towards content. And it really tends to show with the sheer amount of stuff that is going on in this update. Let's start off with a few of the big ticket items here that I know that a lot of you are going to care about. Firstly, SMGs are getting a nerf. SMGs have been a contentious topic in BattleBit for a long time. It's been very common to see them winning engagements at ranges where assault rifles are typically expected to be the top player, and that has not gone unnoticed in the community. Throw in the fact that your more skilled players tend to gravitate towards SMGs for the improved mobility and aggression that they can work with, and yeah, you have a recipe for a little bit of controversy. Well, as of this update, SMGs across the board to varying degrees have had their damage ranges reduced, with their damage drop-off starting points now sitting between 20 to 40 meters, and their damage drop-off end points now sitting between 140 and 150 meters. This is going to universally make SMGs far less competitive at extended ranges, and they'll start to feel weak even at the 80 to 100 meter mark now. Well, at least in comparison to weapons like assault rifles, for example. In my brief time in playing with the update so far, it's felt like it's had a pretty significant impact on the way the game plays now with an SMG, and that will be an ongoing conversation in future videos, one that we're going to have on the channel very, very soon. So be sure to get subscribed for that content, and make sure you join the conversation in our community Discord, linked down below as well, guys. It'd be great to see you there. I've left the changes in detail on your screen now, so give the video a pause if you need to read this line by line, but we're going to be revisiting some of this in more detail very soon. The UMP45 in particular has gotten some very interesting changes, and I've got to be honest, in my limited amount of time in using it so far, it's an absolute fucking cannon right now, but we'll get into that a bit more later on. Staying on the weaponry theme for the day here, SMGs are not the only weapon class under the magnifying glass here. Pistols have also been reworked from top to bottom. Every single pistol in the game has received a varying degree of changes, whether it be touching on damage, velocity, fire rates, draw speeds, recoils, even the headshot multiplier on the heavy pistols has seen a change. Now, truth be told, we could do a whole ass video on the pistols themselves, but for now, I'm going to place all the changes on your screen as a graphic and go over a quick synopsis of each pistol's changes. Pause the video where you need to, choose your own adventure, do whatever you feel like. Firstly, the M9 saw buffs to its rate of fire and its damage, while taking a small hit to the recoil pattern, overall making it a much stronger pick in the arsenal. The MP443 will continue to cement itself as the spammy single-fire pistol, with a boost to its rate of fire, damage model, and magazine size. The USP is going to become a far stronger contender now, but it still reads to me as the weakest of the semi-auto, non-heavy pistols in the game. The Glock will become a slightly deadlier weapon with a somewhat larger magazine size, making it feel a bit more comfortable to use in those panicked situations. The Unica is getting an overall buff to its headshot damage, with a significant reduction to its recoil and reload time. Honestly, very excited to give this weapon a go again post-update. The Deagle, on the other hand, is copping a significant whack to its body damage, but will maintain its current headshot damage through a revised headshot multiplier. I have a feeling that the Deagle aficionados out there are gonna be feeling a little bit hurt personally by this one, but it's not the end of the world. And finally, the RSH-12 is getting some significant buffs across the board that will make it sit firmly as the heftier Unica in the armory, only it isn't gonna suck like it has done since it was introduced to the game, at least in theory. For once, I may actually find myself using this sidearm with serious intent. but again, I'll discuss that in due time. All really good stuff here. The pistol changes have been needed for a while, and I've got a feeling it's going to really bring some more variety to the sidearm game of BattleBit Remastered here. Again, it's good to see the developers really taking the time to iron out some of these kinks in the weaponry balance here. It may not be the most, attractive work to do in front of prospective new players, or returning players for that matter, but it is important to keep the weapon palette in good form so that you do have a good foundation to work off as you add new content. So So I agree with the approach, and hopefully we're getting to a point where we can start seeing some new weapons added to the game very soon. Now, this next thing is something that I've been crying out for in the game for a long time, and that is the ability to switch flashbangs to a dark mode in which your screen will go dark instead of, well, flashing white as they normally do. It's a fantastic fucking feature to have in games nowadays, and something that I'm convinced that all games should be doing going forward in the future. And thank God it's here in BattleBit, because now there'll be no more instances where I'm vegging out at 2 AM with my lights out, hunched over in my chair with enough chins to mimic the stairway to heaven, getting flashbanged and sending my retinas to the Shadow Realm. Honestly, I was a little too giddy for this feature when it was announced in the Discord, and I'm sure many of you out there felt the same. This was also a relatively last-minute addition to the game here, but you'll see that Velasquez has actually done some work on some of the game's environmental textures, improving sort of the sense of depth and some of the variation to give the maps more detail. BattleBit Remastered may be a low-poly game, but the small additions that we're seeing in some of the gameplay here actually go a long way to give the game just that stronger sense of depth and stronger sense of visual quality, something that I wasn't expecting to see BattleBit really focus on too much, but I gotta be honest, the improvements do pay dividends and do make the game look that little bit better, so props to Velasquez there. Staying on the theme of quality of life updates, part of me feels like Christmas has come early here, because we're also getting in this update an end of round screen improvement that will call out players who score the most objective captures, most revives, most heals, most kills, highest scores, and longest sniper kills in meters. And I gotta say, this is a fantastic way to reward the more supportive players in the community, and even incite a little competition amongst friends for who can truly be the best medic in a lobby. Honestly, a fantastic feature. It's great to see this kind of stuff being added. In addition, there's now also an option to vote for a random map or mode to be played for your next match. And again, in that limited time that I've had with the update so far, I've seen a greater variation in picks for maps and for modes now, which would do a lot of good for the game. An input buffer is also being added to semi-auto weapons to avoid dead clicks that come from spamming your mouse too fast and outpacing the weapon's rate of fire. Now, I was a little bit concerned about this potential update because it meant that you effectively now could maximize the rate of fire out on any semi-automatic weapon really easily just by spamming left click as fast as possible. Weapons of a semi-automatic nature are typically balanced by a player's ability to manage that cyclic rate of the weapon manually and not have some sort of automatic refire attached to it by, clicking and spamming the left click button. In the limited amount of time that I've spent with semi-automatic weapons in the updates so far, this change actually has some pretty serious flow-on effects to DMRs in particular, and may even bump them back up into a somewhat overpowered state because you legitimately can now just spam left click and you will hit the best possible rate of fire for those DMRs. I need to do some more testing on this, but I will report back in due time. Transport vehicle physics are also continuing to get some more love as well, hopefully bringing the experience of, driving in this game to be a little bit more enjoyable. There's a good chance it's still going to be incredibly janky in true BattleBit fashion, but it's small baby steps in the right direction. Helicopters are also going to experience some much harder descents in altitude when they're inverted now as well. So our armed little bird ballerinas in the community, you guys may have some new tricks to consider there as well. So those were a couple of the major quality of life updates that were called out there, but there are also some class-based changes that we need to go over here as well, and there's some big ones to talk about. For one, the engineer can now repair vehicles that are damaged in the field up to a potential 98% HP, as opposed to the standard 50 to 75% that we were at pre-update. There was a sort of a permanent damage mechanic applying to vehicles in BattleBit for the longest time that meant that an engineer could never really truly repair a vehicle to its max HP unless that vehicle went back to base. It did create a very frustrating gameplay loop for vehicles in the game, and it kind of forced the engineer out of its supportive role because, again, there was just very little use for it in a lot of situations. So in my view, it's a good change to see, and it will make vehicle gameplay feel a little bit less frustrating for those out there who enjoy it. This next one is massive for the support players in the community here. As we know, since the game's launch, medics have been able to heal players directly with their medkit by holding right click on them. Well now, when a support player has their ammo pack out and holds right click on a player who needs ammo, you guessed it, they will resupply them directly. So now, support players have the option to resupply players in bulk by putting an ammo bag down on the ground, or by supplying that ammunition directly. And I gotta tell you folks, it's a brilliant quality of life update that is going to give the support class even more of a presence on the battlefield, and I'm all for it. In addition, all non-medic classes across the game have received an increase in bandage carrying capacity across the board, which is obviously going to go a long way in assisting in that uptime and giving them the ability to fight in more situations, which again, I think is a great step in the right direction as well. In my limited time of playing with it, I felt that my assault class in particular was able to hold fast a little bit longer, and that was a really, really cool benefit to have. Seriously, folks, there's a lot here that just feels like the glue that is slowly bringing BattleBit closer together, pushing it from this little fun indie project to a very fleshed out and rather mature game. Yes, the game is showing some rough player counts at the moment. That much cannot be denied. But the steps the developers are taking right now are very important to ensuring that the game holds the back-end experience that is worth adding content to. The game has always shown some great attention to detail in its core design, and that continues to be shown here with these quality of life updates that are coming to the game regularly. And trust me, I want to see more content much like everybody else, but I think that these steps are necessary and are definitely heading in the right direction, and we'll continue to report on the changes in due time as they come out. So once again guys, make sure you get subscribed for both more BattleBit Remastered content and other first-person shooter gaming content, because there's a lot happening in this space this year and I want to be covering it all for you guys. So again, get subscribed for that kind of content. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the update so far. Do you think it's a step in the right direction, or do you think we've made some missteps through this one? Also, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it guys, it does go a long way to supporting the channel. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.